What's up, everybody? Welcome to Men's Sexual Mastery Podcast. Today, Ben and I are going to dive into the discussion around how to approach integrating semen intention practices into your relationship. If you're in partnership, one of the questions and concerns that we get from guys often is how do you bring non-ejaculatory sex to your partner if you're in relationship in a way that's really harmonious? And we have a few things I'm sure that we could dive into around this. I'd love to hear from you, Ben. We get this question a lot. What's your go-to response? What's the first thing that comes up for you when guys ask, yeah, okay, I'm curious about semen retention or semen intention, as we say, but how do I introduce that into my relationship? I feel like my girlfriend is not going to like that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really common one. And just for context, if someone is just picking up on this podcast, this is the first episode you've listened to, and you don't understand why you would be practicing semen retention, we invite you to go back and check out some other episodes. But just to mention that as a man, you can separate orgasm and ejaculation. And that's the intention with this, is to be able to last as long as you want and to go as deep as you can with your partner and to really open up, mind-blowing sex. In the shortest way I could say that. But that being said, the most common frame I like to give to guys who are just starting this work or facing this issue with partners who may not be supportive in the beginning is starting with a lot of understanding about where this is coming from. For women just as much as men, a lot of our sex education has been through watching porn or exposure to porn. And in porn, there is almost always, I don't know actually if I've ever seen any porn where there's not an ejaculation at the end. If it's involving a man and a woman, it's like that is the program of you doing it right. And none of the technologies that we're teaching, none of these deeper levels of lovemaking are ever demonstrated in pornography. So for a lot of women, there can be, just as much as it is for men, like a performance anxiety with a man not ejaculating and her having this deep unconscious program running that she's not doing it right or you're not satisfied if you don't ejaculate. And that can often make her feel very insecure. So starting with compassion and understanding where this is coming from, I think can be really helpful. That's always where this is coming from in my experience. It's just a partner who's afraid that this is going to cause, some kind of disappointment in the man or she's going to be left behind sexually or something like that. So what we recommend guys start out with is really just having a really open conversation with your partner, letting her know the intention behind what it is you're doing, why you're doing this, and letting her know that this is an exploration. I like to tell guys, like, go to your partner and tell her, hey, this is a game I want to try playing. I've heard about this whole non-ejaculatory orgasm thing. I've heard about these practices that allow me to go deeper into levels of lovemaking that can meet you in more depth. And my intention is actually to deepen our love together and to deepen our lovemaking. So would you be willing to explore this with me? And I think 9 times out of 10, the partner will say yes. If she's really insecure about and feels really threatened about it, which, by the way, there can be other, like, on deeper levels, there can be like unconscious power dynamics I've seen playing out in this, where like if the woman is very much the one like wearing the pants in the relationship and calling all the shots, and the man is very passive and like a yes man to his woman, this can be a real crux of reclaiming your leadership, reclaiming your balls. Like if that's the case, and this is pretty rare, but if you're in a situation where your woman is like telling you whether or not you can ejaculate, like at the end of the day, this is your body, and like a lot of this work is about teaching men how to connect to their inner authority. And maybe that really intimidates and scares your woman at first because she may be running all sorts of programming from her childhood or her parents, where it's not safe for men to be in a position of authority and those kind of things. So there's like this unconscious manipulation. But in that case, we recommend just staying really playful and playing the game, like, and letting her know this is actually what I'm going to do. whether or not you like it. And and that could be a little triggering for her at first, but in time, we promise, like, she'll come to love it. No pun intended. Uh, so that's kind of a place to start. And then, Hawks, I'd love to actually pass it to you to talk a little bit about. I mean, of course, any other points you'd love to bring in here, but I know another big piece here is giving her affirmations as you are in this practice, like
Mm.
really doubling down on letting her know how good it feels actually to not release in some of those pieces. So I just want to hand it back to you on that.
Yeah. So I heard you touch on primarily two main reasons why this could be met with some adversity, with some resistance in the partnership. That first one being, well, she might be concerned that, hey, is my man actually satisfied during sex? How do I know if he's had a good time and if he's really enjoyed himself to the fullest if he's not having an ejaculation? So that's the one aspect. And then the other piece that you spoke to there is there could be subtle or not so subtle power dynamic uh, elements at work there, and that is definitely something that we've seen. It's something that exists out there, and there's sort of a subservience that can come from a man who is relying on his partner to get him off. If he's having all of his sexual energy and releases and needs met by his partner, there can become this transactional sort of power dynamic that adds another layer of nuance to navigating. So to come back to that first one, when it's just the very common, this is the most common thing I would say is the woman is desires for her man to feel lots of pleasure, and the affirmation that most of us in this culture have received for what that looks like for a man to be in his pleasure and fulfillment is an ejaculation. And so that's where the affirmations come in that you were just inviting me to speak to, Ben. It's our responsibility as men, if we're choosing that, hey, this is a path I want to walk down, I want to explore what it's like to have sex without an ejaculation at the end. Starting first, as you mentioned, with sharing the intentions, and some of the key intentions that I would invite men to consider is the deepening of connection, the availability that we have to become even more present in every moment of the lovemaking process when we remove that end goal of ejaculation. And with that becomes the ability to become even more present to the pleasure and the sensations in every moment during the lovemaking, rather than all of it being concentrated on this big, brief ejaculatory orgasm. And through all of that, the common thread, as I see it, is deeper connection with the partner, the ability for both people to be even more present with each other. And that enriches and deepens the connection there. So, sharing some intentions, whatever feels authentic to you, that can help your partner see that this is really about the relationship as a whole. And for yourself as a man to also claim, like, hey, this is my body and I want to explore what it's like to do this for sure. So, with all of that, the overcoming of that initial resistance that she might have around, is he actually enjoying this? We can express our pleasure in so many different ways as men. So letting our partner know during the lovemaking, like, damn, this feels amazing. Like, wow, I'm in so much pleasure right now. There's vocal expressions, non-verbalized vocal expressions. I don't know if that makes sense. Just without using language, we can express
Mhm.
ourselves vocally in our pleasure as well, which is something we speak to a lot, because opening up our voice, our throat chakra as men during sex is a really common barrier as well. But the more that we can vocalize our pleasure through, moaning, toning, like, that's actually supporting our nervous system and our experience, and is as long as we're, authentic with it and not getting carried away to the point where we're, you know, no longer present with our partner, most women that, I've talked to about this and learned from around this have expressed that, yeah, it's actually really enjoyable to feel and hear my man in pleasure. And so there's a lot that we can do as men to create those affirmations for our partner to realize, wow, like he's really enjoying every step along this journey. It's not just about what's at the end. By the time we come to a completion without an ejaculation as men, there's the next opportunity for affirmations, which is really like letting our partner know, damn, that was amazing. You were so hot, baby. I felt so much pleasure in every moment. I was so close to coming so many times. And like, thank you for, not, thank you for listening to my body by not, and allowing me to slow down when I needed to so that I didn't spill over into
Mhm.
ejaculation. Because that's another aspect here of enrolling our partner. If this is a new step for us, there are, really important ways that both partners can communicate verbally and non-verbally to ensure that the man isn't going past that point of no return.
Mhm.
So expressing our gratitude for her support and acceptance in our, choice to navigate sex in this new way, and just really letting her know, like, I feel so filled up, like, and it's important this is authentic and true, but we get this from men all of the time. It doesn't take very long into exploring this new way of being with our sexual energy with more containment that we start to realize, holy, I'm filled up with so much energy and vitality right now. And so letting our partner know minutes, hours, days after the lovemaking that, damn, baby, I feel like all of that eros, all of that pleasure and energy that we cultivated together is still surging through me. And I get to send that back to you, and I get to direct it towards my work and my purpose, or, share it with the family in my ability to show up with more presence and more energy and more strength. And all of that serves to, let our partner know that, wow, there's actually so many benefits to this new way of lovemaking that I never even thought about before. And then I do want to add the little caveat, like, we can come back around to this because I'm curious what else comes up for you before we go down this road, Ben. But there is also, shadow aspects to this. And there's also the reality of we can take these things too far. And, if there's a real energy of controlling coming from the man, and a holding back of like, no, like I can't ever come there, that will stifle the free flow of energy in the
Mhm.
lovemaking and in the relationship. So just as with anything, finding the middle path and allowing yourself to still enjoy an ejaculation with your partner every once in a while. And even if you go into a particular lovemaking session and your intention may have been to not ejaculate, but as the energy's building and maybe your partner is super close to having an orgasm, and there's just this sense of, what, actually it feels like it would be really special for us to both have an orgasm together at the same time,
Mhm.
and just allowing yourself to go into that when it feels aligned. So not getting too rigid in your ways. And then, yeah, there's some more elements that we could speak to of ways to meet our partner, because there is also a beautiful element for a woman to receive, her man's ejaculatory orgasm. To share that with our partner is really beautiful and sacred. And so finding the balance, as always, is another little piece I'd love to come back to. But yeah, that's what comes up for me around affirmations. I'm curious, Ben, if there's anything else you want to sprinkle on there. And then also, how would you propose a man approaches the situation if it's more of the power dynamic uh,
Mhm.
element at play there, where there could be, yeah, some deeper patterns within the relationship that might actually be more fragile or sensitive to these shifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, everything you said was so on point. And one quick just caveat or disclaimer I want to give here to guys, especially if you're new to this work. You're mentioning, the making the sounds and staying away from the point of no return and enrolling your partner and doing that together. And if you are brand new to this, if this is your first time coming across this stuff, what we recommend in the beginning is not going beyond the point of, they say 7 or 8 is just great. If a 10 is the point of no return, you got to stay at that 7 or 8. If you start playing with too close of edging too early on, especially if you don't have the tools and the practices to move this sexual energy, it's going to concentrate into your balls. And they say in the Taoist lineage, it's like cooking your semen, and that can create blue balls. Blue balls are the result of the energy being stuck and not being circulated properly. So just so guys know, if you're going into this, if you're brand new, stay at that 7 or 8. Just want to give a quick cliff notes. And then just remember, we say our big reframe here, and there's so much more. The links will be in the bio. We have tons more on this, so I won't give it all right here. But at its core of this work, we say sexual mastery is nervous system mastery. And as you're going into these practices, retaining your semen with your partner, staying in as much of a parasympathetic state as possible, noticing when your breathing is getting shallow, when your body is getting tense, when you're locking up, when you're not expressing and vibrating, that vagal toning that can come, as Hawks was speaking to, with making sounds. And it's a huge benefit, to release that tension and, oh yeah, baby, working it, and staying in deep breathing, relaxing, staying at that 7 or 8 are all just little pointers I wanted to give in a quick little disclaimer here, so that guys, if they're going straight into trying this and they don't have any other context, they can not end up with really bad blue balls, because that's just a lack of training in the beginning. So
Yeah, another really important aspect of that is slowing down and coming into stillness, because it's all well and good to say stay within as 7 or 8 as a max, but then what do you do when you find yourself up at that level of 7 or 8?
Yeah.
It, in my experience, pretty much requires slowing down or coming into stillness and really deepening the breath and allowing yourself to come back down. And if you stay in connection physically, staying inside of your partner, staying connected with her through your eyes and through your heart and through your body, you can come into that stillness, and it's not going to bring her pleasure or the energy of that lovemaking experience down. It's just allowing you to ground yourself, to calm your nervous system down again, and then you can start building back up again. And it's like a staircase that continues. The pleasure and the orgasmic energy that you're cultivating with your partner continues to go up, but it's allowing yourself to find these plateaus where you can then settle back in, ground yourself, and then all of a sudden your capacity increases and you can build that more. But it's again, if you've only really learned about sex from porn, like how often, unless you're watching tantric porn, how often do they actually just really slow down and come into stillness and be present with each other? But there's a lot of magic there, and it serves to actually amplify the pleasure in the experience. So that's another important little invitation if this is something that you haven't tried before.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you added that in there. We're just dropping these little small pointers in here in the midst of the conversation. But if you're interested, as I mentioned, there's so much more in our school community. And to pull it back into the point you made earlier, and especially particularly if we have a partner who is resistant to this, or there's a subtle power dynamic. And I'm glad you spoke to kind of the inverse of like the man being in this power trip, where like practicing semen retention is like some kind of power trip over his partner. All that, that's all important to highlight. And I think the key piece in all of this is actually just approaching this entire subject with your partner with playfulness and ease, and remembering that this is about pleasure, like not being so fucking serious about it. And especially if your partner is having some kind of trigger or shutdown or response, or there is what we mentioned, there is some kind of power dynamic going on, continuing to make light of it and not get caught into making this some kind of conflict, but just allowing it to be a game. And she's aware that like you're gonna try doing this, suddenly there's this whole dynamic created where like she's trying to extract your semen out of you, and that can make it hard to be practicing these things if you have a partner who's actively trying it. But even that dynamic is like super hot, and that can bring a lot of spice to the bedroom. That could be one of the ways that you slowly are transitioning into this. And as she gets to interact with you, practicing coming from this space, she's going to get to experience firsthand, as are you, just the benefits of this stuff little by little. Like the proof is in the pudding. And like over time, I promise you, we have not had a guy who's come through the training who's brought this to us and hasn't been able to enroll his partner. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but she's going to notice the shifts. I promise you. And like it's a win-win. And just you remembering that like it's a win-win, and holding the frame and holding patience for her and compassion and playfulness and all of this, I think just staying light about it is really what's most important. Because if we're coming, I think that's really the shadow that can exist. It's this reverse power grab thing where it's like we're
Yeah.
trying to force our will on her, and she's trying to, hold our balls in her hand or whatever. And it doesn't need to be like an adversarial interaction at all. And you setting the tone and taking the leadership for that is what's going to create a good, a positive outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do everything we can to steer sex away from being any type of an adversarial dynamic. And, not to say that it doesn't sometimes present in that way, but if it is, then like you're saying, Ben, coming back into the playfulness, coming back into the really generous giving mentality of sex too, I think is really important for us as men, because another way, you mentioned, this is a win-win. And I'd say, yeah, it's a win-win when we navigate it appropriately and compassionately and we bring that energy of generosity to our relationship. Because one way it's not going to end up as a win-win is if the man is so concerned about not ejaculating that he's then no longer actually fully present with his partner. He's holding back in ways that take away from her pleasure, and all of that can eventually lead into the proliferation of more patterns of desire gap, more patterns of her actually pulling away and contracting and not desiring sex and intimacy as much, or the man pulling away and contracting, not desiring sex and intimacy as much, because he might not be in a place of development of that capacity to withhold his ejaculation. And then if he gets in his head about but if we have sex, I'm probably going to come, and I'm trying not to ejaculate right now, so I'm just not going to have sex with my partner. That's creating, disconnection in the relationship.
Yeah.
And so we want to just dissolve that. Like, I really feel that even if you never practice non-ejaculatory sex as a man, if you're in a vibrant relationship with thriving intimacy and you're having lots of sex with your partner and the connection is really strong, that's beautiful. That's great. This is just another layer that we can add on to it to amplify things even further. But it's important to take a step back and be honest and be like, hey, is this actually serving the relationship? And there can be a period of transition where, it might be a little sticky at first. There might be some of that energy of holding back, and that's okay, because growth requires some element of discomfort. So it's okay if that's part of the transition. But if this starts going on for like months and months and months or years, then there's more important things, I would say, to focus on. But all of that to say, just one other really valuable way that we can ensure the support and enrollment of our partner is ensure that she's receiving all of the pleasure that she can. And so during this period of exploring as a man what it's like to have sex without ejaculation, what it's like to slow down and be in more containment with our sexual energy, there are really helpful tools that we can use to ensure that our partner is still having orgasms and still being really filled up and expanded through the sexual connection. And so bringing in something like oral sex, which we have a podcast, you can go back and find one of our podcasts on oral sex that provides some, some sort of introductory framework of a great way to approach that. We also have our oral mastery course inside the program. That's a much deeper dive into this, but leaning on other ways to bring our partner pleasure even before we enter her with our cock is like going to allow that opening and allow more ease for us to then be like, okay, I can slow down and this can be more about me exploring my edges because she's also already been filled up with pleasure and there's already like a deep openness and connection there. So I would say, by and large, one of the best ways that we can ensure our partner's enrollment is ensure that she's being sexually fulfilled. Her cup is, her cup is overflowing, and then she'll, in my experience, be more than happy to support and, help you in whatever ways she can, because it's a win-win when we're really first coming with the energy of taking care of our partner, giving to her, filling her up, and then that's reciprocated by the feminine. So
Amen. And all that, and a well-fucked woman is the greatest asset you could ever have as a man. Like, it will boost your every other area of your life will have a rocket fuel behind it, when you have a well-fucked woman. So here's to that. Cheers to that.
Yeah. So we feel like we covered some of the big pieces around this today, and look forward to dropping in on this topic again in a future podcast with my partner Aspen or your partner Taylor. Maybe the four of us drop in on a collective discussion around this, because it's going to be great to bring in the feminine and have her direct experience shared in this process as well. But we wanted to put this out there because we get this question a lot, as we mentioned at the beginning, and those are some of the key talking points around this that come up for us. So yeah, anything else? What did we not speak to that feels important to you, Ben?
I feel like this feels really complete, and appreciate you hosting this today. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. If you're listening to this, just know that you're part of the 1% of men right now who are at the forefront of this work. This is really, really deep stuff we're uncovering here. It's ancestral patterns that we've inherited. And as we say in all this work, we're here in service to the future generations of children waiting to be born into families where men are the fire keepers of intimacy, where men know how to start the fire, stoke the fire, put the logs on, balance the elements, to keep that fire lit in the home. And that fire warms the home. It cooks meals, and it's felt, and this is the glue that holds relationships together. So in the age of AI girlfriends and people having less sex than ever, and porn taking over and less human connection, may this information that's helped us and transformed our lives and all the brotherhood that we have, may it also help you in your path, stepping into the man you came here to be, so that we can continue on in a good way, having thriving relationships for millennia to come as humans. So that's the last piece I have there. Handing it back to you, bro.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Amen to all of that. If you're interested in joining the school community that Ben mentioned earlier, there's free access into that community. We'll have a link below, and we have a group Semen Intention Challenge that's going to be launching in the next couple of weeks.
April 17th.
Yeah, so that's a great place if you're new to this work and you want to go through this journey and have other men that you can share your experience with and learn from, and have that accountability support to help you experience new levels of containment with your sexual energy and all of the benefits that come from that, which need to be experienced to be understood. So with that, we'll sign off for today, and looking forward to dropping in for the next one. We'll see y'all next week. And Ben, I'll see you really shortly in our meeting.
Okay. All right. Take care, y'all. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone. Blessings.